Today we're going to be talking about something that's really near and dear to my heart, and it is a just an overview of some of the musical. So I'm going to paint like an overview of a musical journey, primarily and especially in the decade of the 1990s. And I'm going to focus on this decade very specifically because at this time, hip hop is a global icon. It's a global brand. It is, broadcasting the stories of Black American trajectory through the eyes of the youth to the world. And not only that, but it's the #1 musical genre on the globe. It's at the forefront of the marketing and branding, industries. And it is basically the cultural icon globally. I think it's hard to debate that. And I'm gonna focus on 3 different songs and 3 different groups from 3 different parts of the country. So I'm gonna start in 1990 in New York City with Kool G Rap, Streets of New York. And then I'm gonna go across the country to Los Angeles, Ice Cube and A Bird in the Hand, 1991. Both of these guys, by the way, at the time, 1990 and 1991, Ice Cube and Kool G Rap are both in their early 20s. They're right out of teenhood. And then the third song, I'm gonna top it off with a song by OutKast that comes out in 1998. It's a B-side song, so it's not one of their more popular songs, but it's gonna tie up this analysis that I'm giving. And the reason why I'm doing this is because together, the Kool G Rap, the Ice Cube, and the OutKast songs, they map 3 major geographies of modern Black America. So the North, of course, the West, and the South. And each are articulating a different dimension of struggle and liberation that is shaped by the Great Migration and grounded in Black radical traditions. So the first song is by Kool G Rap, right? It comes out in 1990. The name of the song is Streets of New York, In the Streets of New York, right? Now, this song, I always felt like at a very early stage, like this song came out, I think I was probably a sophomore in high school or something like that. And I remember this song and I remember the video and I remember the impact that this song had on me because he was basically, like telling the story of like our environment. Even though I'm not from New York City, I'm from Southern Connecticut, from Waterbury, Connecticut. But, it's still a lot of the same, social dynamics and whatnot. It's just 1990. This is the height, the peak of the crack era, what I'm saying? And right about the peak of the mass incarceration boom. He's speaking directly to everything that I'm seeing and witnessing around in my neighborhoods and whatnot. So let's just look at some of the lyrics in this song, right? She says, so in the streets of New York, dope fiends are leaning for morphine. The TV screen follows the homicide scene. You live here, you're taking a chance. I look and I take one glance, there's a man inside an ambulance. Crowds are getting louder. I wonder how the people want to go fight for the white powder. Crowds are getting louder. I wonder how people want to go and fight for the white powder. People hanging in spots. They waited till the blocks got hot and got raided by the cops. I'll explain the man sleeping in the rain. His whole life remains inside a bottle of night train. In the video, and even in the lyrics of the song, you can see he's clearly taking you on a journey through the streets of New York. In the streets of New York, dope fiends, talking about the heroin addicts, all leaning for morphine. You see the dope fiends. This is 1990. I mean, it's off the charts now. It's way worse. The morphine epidemic. The TV screen, talking about the news. The TV screen follows the homicide scenes. You live here, you taking the chance. I look and I take one glance. There's a man inside an ambulance. It's like he's walking down the street and he's pointing all these things out. And it's a guy, maybe, some homeless guy, who's asleep outside and it's raining outside. What happened to him? He's an alcoholic. He couldn't put the bottle down. I'll explain the man sleeping in the rain. his whole life remains inside a bottle of Night Train. Night Train is a famous, really cheap liquor that devastated black communities. Another man got his clothes in a sack because he spent every dime of his rent playing blackjack. He got kicked out of his crib because he couldn't pay his rent. He got caught up gambling. And then he said, and there's the poor little sister. She has a little baby daughter named Sonia, and Sonia has pneumonia. So why is her mother in the club pulling zippers? Yo, that's her job. Sonia's mommy is a bar stripper. So he's talking about a young lady who works in the strip club and, who has a young daughter, right? So he says, drug dealers driving around looking hard, knowing they're sending their brothers and sisters to the graveyard. There's no need to, that's self-explanatory. Every day is a main event. Some old lady limps, the pushers and pimps eat shrimps. It gets tiring. He said, I'm tired. This is tired. This is tiring, man. It gets tiring. The sight of the gun firing. Then there's there's desire for the sounds of a siren. A bag lady dies in the alleyway. She's seen the last of her days inside of subways. More and more down the slope. Like, he's just saying, like, more and more examples, more and more kids, more and more people going down the tube, going down the slope. A kid couldn't cope, so he stole somebody's dope and a gold rope, so he robbed somebody. He couldn't take it no more, so he robbed somebody. Now my son's on the run. He's a wanted one, had fun, then was done by the shotgun. Upstairs, I cover my ears. The man downstairs must have drank too many beers. 'Cause every day of his life, he beats his wife. Till one night, she decides to pull a butcher knife. Blind man plays the sax. A tune called The Arms on my mom's show railroad tracks. Many lives are cut short. That's when you're living in the streets of New York. Bro, listen, man. Yo, this is poetry. It is beauty. It is all of that as much as it is devastating. That this young man is able to, live in this environment and navigate these environments and articulate with such clarity and such artistry. He's really speaking for a whole generation of people in this part of the country and what they were and what we were, seeing every day. Like I said, like this is vivid. This is a vivid image of what I saw, what I was familiar with myself and everybody that I knew. We understood exactly every line in this song, what it meant. All right, so now let's go over to Ice Cube. The name of the song is called A Bird in the Hand, right? And basically in this song, Ice Cube is talking about like the struggles of a young teenager, right? Like growing up, going to school, aspirations for a future, to be able to take care of his family, to be able to live a decent life. But he's highlighting all of the issues and all of the different turns that he has to navigate along the way. So we started in New York. Remember, we going to LA now, and then we're gonna end it in the South. And I'm gonna tie it all together. All right. And I just picked these three songs. When I sat back and looked at them, like they tell a really good story of Black American life in this decade. And they're coming from three completely different parts of the world. But the stories are being told by the same people in essence. It's a beautiful thing. All right, so Ice Cube. Fresh out of school because I was a high school grad. Got to get a job because I was a high school dad. Wish I got paid by rapping to the nation, but that's not likely. So here's my application. Pass it to the man at AT&T. Because when I was in school, I got the AEE. All right, yo. Fresh out of school because I was a high school grad. I got to get a job because I was a high school dad. We know, unfortunately, we know that there was a lot of, teen pregnancies and teen births in this time and in this era. And Ice Cube was telling that story. Wish I got paid by rapping to the nation, but that's not likely. So here's my application. So he fills out an application at AT&T, right? The phone company. Because when I was in school, I got the AEE. The AEE is the acceptable exceeds expectations. So he was an honor student, basically. He said, but there's no SC for this youngster, but there's no USC, University of Southern California. There's no university for this youngster. I didn't have no money. So now I gotta punch up, clock as a slave, and be happy with what Whitey says. There's no room for the African. Always knew that I would clock G's, but welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order, please? I gotta serve you food that might give you cancer. Because my son, remember, he's fresh out of school because he was a high school dad. Gotta serve you food that might give you cancer. Cause my son doesn't take no for an answer. Now I pay taxes that they'll never give me back. What about diapers, bottles, and Similac? Here's the kicker. He says, do I got to sell me a whole lot of crack for decent shelter and clothes on my back? Or should I just wait for help from Bush? President George Bush is president at the time in 1991. Or should I just wait for help from Bush or Jesse Jackson and Operation Push? So he made a decision that he was gonna hustle and he was gonna sell crack, right? What a devastating alternative. Like what a devastating position to be, to where, like, you know, you have to make these kinds of decisions. And I get it, I understand. Everybody didn't live this kind of life or have to make these kinds of decisions. But this is real life for a lot of people. This was real life in America for a lot of us. You know, I was 18, 19 when this song came out. I remember. And this was like a soundtrack to my life. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the sort of like encapsulating the choices, you know, that you had to make because of what was around you and what you were surrounded by. And he says, now everybody know I went from poor, but he said po. Now everybody know I went from po to a nigga that got dough. So now you put your feds against me because I didn't follow the plan or the presidency. I'll never get love again. But blacks are too fucking broke to be Republican. Now remember, I used to be cool until I stopped filling out my W-2. Now senators are getting high. And your plan against the ghetto backfired. So now you want a pep talk. But sorry, this is our only room to walk. Because we don't want a drug push. We don't want to do this. But a bird in the hand is worth more than a bush. The wise folks in the South would tell you, a bird in the hand beats two in the bush. They said a bird in the hand beats two in the bush. That saying, it means basically that it's difficult to catch a bird. Like imagine you see a bird, you try to get up on it and creep up on it and it flies away. It's not easy to catch a bird. But when you get one, that's a bird in the hand. And you look over there, there's a bush. There's two birds in the bush over there. Now, it's unwise to let the bird in the hand go to go after the two in the bush. Say, oh, let me go, there's two more birds. Let me go get those two. So you let that one go, and as soon as you let that one go, the two in the bush fly off. Now you have no birds. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So what are we doing? What are we talking about right here? So what we're doing is we're looking at, you know, two of the same realities that's happening in New York City is also happening in New York. And the same communities, the same product of the Great Migration, the descendants of the Great Migration, because they are from that generation of children born outside of the South, products of families who have migrated from the South to places like LA and New York City. They're all bound by this Southern root, this Southern connection. And they're all experiencing the same thing, albeit on different coasts at the same time. Police brutality, drug abuse, all sorts of social-political ills and ailments that, a country like the United States could easily, disband, but for whatever reasons, were allowed to become staples in our communities. So now we take it back to, we wrap it up. We wrap it up with the OutKast. So now OutKast, they introduce a third, oftentimes overlooked dimension. And it's important to note that the Great Migration, the Southern migration of Black folks out of the South, really produced the Black communities in LA and New York City, right? Because these are the two cities that I'm focused on, and there's other cities as well, but the two cities that I'm focused on as the two songs are talking about the realities, the urban realities in these two cities. But remember, in essence, these were Southerners. This is where all of the Black struggle, all of the Black resilience, all of the Black brilliance came from. All of the Black swagger came from. And I'm not even from the South. I wasn't born in the South. I wasn't raised in the South, but I know what's up. But I digress. Let's get into OutKast. Because in this OutKast song, again, they represent a third, often overlooked dimension of this. And remember, it's something really important see, I look at OutKast like, there were other groups that were from the South that were before OutKast, like Scarface, like there was different groups from different parts of the South. But to me, OutKast really, really stamped the South in a way that, in my opinion, bust the South wide open. Not just Atlanta, but the whole South. The whole South benefited from what OutKast did, in my opinion. This is somebody who's not from the South, but as a 20-year-old, I moved to the South and I saw with my own eyes. I watched Atlanta's rise. I watched OutKast. I watched them go from, their very first single, and it could either go either way kind of thing, to them just, I'm talking about superstardom. I seen it. I was very close to that. I think OutKast is the first of this revival era of Southern cultural and political, revision almost. You know what I'm saying? Like, the South is the place to be now. It's where everybody's migrating back to. The folks whose, great-grandparents left the South and went to LA, those folks are going back South. The folks who migrated to Chicago, 50, 60, 100 years ago, their generations, many of them who weren't even born in the South, are migrating to the South, to their ancestral homeland. Same with New York. You see them all flocking back to the South. And that has a lot to do with the Southern revival that's going on. It's like this reverse migration that's happening. But see, OutKast really, in a lot of ways, musically, culturally, kind of articulates that. Like, you can kind of get a vision of what that's gonna look like. So now when we look at the OutKast song, the song is called Liberation, right? And the song consists of Erykah Badu, who's from Dallas, Texas, right? It consists of Joy, she's from Memphis, and of course OutKast and CeeLo and Big Rube, who are all from Atlanta. So the opening verse, it says, there's a fine line between, and it's melodic. The song is melodic. It's loaded with melodies, right? And the group OutKast, the name is apropos. It is it's great that they call themselves OutKast, because this song represents an outcast in hip hop. They are outcast. They are an outcast in hip hop, without question, right? So it's called Liberation. Andre 3000 starts out. He said, "There's a fine line between love and hate, baby. I'm on it." So he said, "There's a fine line between love and hate, and I'm on that line. It's a fine line, right? Can't worry about what it think. Now see, that's liberation, and baby, I'm on it." How many times I sit back and contemplate, I'm fresh off And I'm telling my story. All right. My relationship with my folks is give and take. And I done took so much, now give them my glory. The way I understand this, right? The context of like being someone who listens to OutKast music, understanding their love and their relationship to their communities and their people. My relationship with my folks is give and take. Now, you can break this down a whole lot of ways. I'm not saying what the brother intended to say, but what it implies is that, you know, as a young kid, you know, like the black communities is it's always been communal. The best of our relationships, the best of our stories, the best of our histories have always been communal. We've always been community oriented. So when we talk about socialism, right? Like that scary word that people are scared to death of. When we talk about that, black people have always practiced a version of that, right? Like before you was famous, you know what I'm saying? There were people who was feeding you. And when things got rough, there was people who was there for you. You know what I'm saying? To pat you on the back and let you know everything gonna be all right. He said you had to have a choice to be who you wants to be. It's left up to me and my mama and them told me. So now in comes the CeeLo Green verse. He says, I'm so tired, it's been so long, struggling, hopelessly sitting there for the day. I'm not gonna try to hit them CeeLo notes, but he says, I sacrifice every breath I breathe to make you believe I'll give my life away. And then he says, oh Lord, I'm so tired, I'm so tired. My feet feel like I walk most of the road on my own, all on my own. We alive, but we ain't living. That's why I'm giving until it's gone, cause I don't wanna be alone. I don't wanna be alone. If anything I can say to help you find your way, touch your soul, make you whole. The same for you and I. There's not a minute that goes by that I don't believe we could fly. But I could feel it in the wind, beginning or the end. But people, keep your head to the sky. Bro, listen, this is not a song. This is a testimonial. This is Afrofuturism. This is a song of hope. This is a song of like moral clarity. This is like a cleansing almost, right? Then Erykah Badu comes in. Folk in your face, you're a superstar. Hang around cause of who you are. You get a lot of love cause of what you got. Just say they happy for you, but they really not. I sell a lot of records in your roller bins. Swole up in the spot, now you're losing friends. All you wanna do is give the world your heart. Record label try to make you compromise your art. Ooh. Remember now, what I did in this conversation was I tied together 3 separate songs that covered the decade, the 90s, right? We started out with Kool G Rap in the streets of New York, 1990. He's basically speaking on behalf of the children of the Great Migration, the grandchildren, great-grandchildren, what the black communities in New York City whose ancestors had left the South hoping for a better future for their offspring. But he's telling exactly what was happening with them and to them and what they were dealing with. And he's telling the world this. And the same with Ice Cube, telling the story from 3,000 miles away, the same story on a whole other coast. Ice Cube is telling you what's happening to those kids and what they're navigating and the choices that they have to make for survival. Whether you agree with it or not, that's the reality it was the reality for a lot of us. And then you have this Southern, you know, like the root of it all, like an OutKast with this, like they are expressing all the elements of the black radical tradition, the hope for a better future. You know what I'm saying? The lessons, the life lessons, the community lessons, the family lessons. These 3 songs that span the entire decade of the 1990s. I just wanted to share, like I said, from my bird's eye view, just showing the relationship between the Great Migration and the descendants of the Great Migration and those who stayed behind. The culture that makes Black America unique and specifically different than our ancestral lineage, our continental African ancestors. What makes us different is the same thing that makes, folks different from Ghana to Nigeria to Somalia to Congo to South Africa. The ways in which we communicate and how we communicate and how we tell the same and similar stories in different parts of the world or different parts of the country, and it show up almost identically. This is because we're the same people. We're part of the same culture. Peace, y'all. That's it for now.
Word up, quick to set it, don't wet it. Real niggas lick shots, peace, Connecticut.
Yo, what up, yo? Time is running out, it's the real though. Let's connect, politics, ditto. We can stay